Today's episode of Passionate Talk is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audio download and 30-day free trial at books.passionatetalk.com. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Get your 30-day free trial and free audiobook at books.passionatetalk.com. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Passionate Talk. I am your host, Gary Karp, and this is episode number 35. Today is the second half of my conversation with mindfulness coach and energy healer, Moira Hutchison. We are going to discuss the power of I am statements and how impactful they can be in our lives. And Moira is going to share some exercises to help us honor emotions, both positive and negative, and help us move through those emotions so we can better manage our lives and live a better quality of life. So right now, I want you to sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, maybe some tea, and get ready to listen to the second half of my interview with Moira.
I'm a big believer in using I am statements. That's one of the most powerful statements we can use.
Absolutely. It's the most powerful sentence and the most powerful two words in the English language is I am.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, the one of the definitions for God in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible, Adonai and Jehovah, is I am what I
That's right.
am.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I always joke that means great. We got Popeye for God. But the statement is really very, very powerful because I truly believe that we are God, that if we believe God is all-knowing and omniscient and omnipresent in the macrocosm we call the universe, then we have to be all-knowing, omniscient, and omnipresent in the microcosm we call our lives, which means we can create our lives any way.
I totally agree with you.
Anything we put after that word, that sentence, I am, we are declaring our intention to the universe.
Yes, but we are also owning it. So if I say I am here, or I am love, or I am calmness, I am prosperity, these are all things that I would have my clients do on an ongoing basis. Mm-hmm. But think about if you start saying, I am broke, I am stressed, I am bad at this. Now or I am depressed, I am angry, I am irritated. It's all the same thing. So yep. Where mindfulness comes into, because you don't want to ever be denying any of those feelings like irritation or anger or fear. So the thing that I really encourage people to do is be open to the experience. And so if I'm irritated, I would be saying, I am experiencing irritation at the moment. That's it. And then you can start to get into the impermanence of all emotions. Because this is another really big part of my own belief system, is that all emotions demand our respect. Every one of them.
Absolutely. I love that you said that it is not I am frustrated. It is I am experiencing frustration. Yes. That you are not that emotion. Right. I also love that you said that every emotion demands our respect. I have an old dear friend of mine who used to say all the time, anything you're going through, if you're going through a negative situation, if you're going through a bad time, any bad emotions you're feeling, give it a beginning, give it a middle, give it an end. Allow it to have its journey.
That's brilliant. It's exactly in essence what I'm trying to say here.
And I find that to be the truth, because the problem starts, in my opinion, is when we stop it. When we have these bad feelings at the beginning or the middle and we say, gosh darn it, and I clean that up because we are a family show. Gosh darn it, I can't do anything. I'm stupid. Yeah. I suck. Why do I keep losing clients? Why can't I make any money? Why can't I have the girlfriend? But all these bad feelings that come up, if we just acknowledge them and watch them in our mind's eye, so to speak, and allow them to have their journey and allow the physical manifestation of that, whether it's anger, whether it's rage, whether it's crying, whether it's sadness, whatever it is, allow ourselves to physically experience that without judgment and just to move through it, we will be much better off.
Absolutely. Well, because it's by moving through it and by expressing it fully that you've honored that emotion, and it goes. It's like, okay, good. Thank you for feeling me, and off I am. So there's some exercises that I've developed based on, some of them are based on kind of shamanic / mindfulness practices, where sure, the one that comes to mind just in talking about this is, and it's to recognize that one of the reasons we run away from painful emotions is because it's almost like, as a unit, our emotions feel like they're attacking us, and our reptilian self, our subconscious, says, oh my God, this is dangerous, I might die, I might get stuck here, it's too dark.
That lizard brain, that first primeval, that was me trying to say primeval and primordial at the same time.
I like it. That's a good word. So it's the fight or flight kicks in, but it's us that created it. It's our experience or our emotions that's coming up to say, hey, well, you just feel this moment of desperation or this hopelessness. So then the primordial thrust for survival goes, oh my God, you can't go there. That's too stressful, too scary. And so this process that I'd love to share is that in order to be comforting to ourselves, we must do something tactile. For me, I like to put my hands over my heart, but not everybody likes that. So you can like hold as if you're giving yourself a hug, or cradle your face, or just put your hands together in a prayer position. Whatever it is, it must be physical. So, because this is like you comforting. This is how mammals comfort by touch. So,
and that is so important, folks. That tactile response, we are, by our very nature, and the way we comfort is very kinesthetic. We are very touch feeling oriented. One of the first senses we develop as we are getting older or growing is that sense of touch. It's how we learn not to put our hand in a fire because fire is hot. Okay? So that tactile response, whether it is the simple act of, as you're saying, tenting your hands in prayer or putting your hands over your heart, for me, it has to be something a little bit more strenuous. So for me, I will go out and I will run a mile, or I will do some exercises, some weightlifting, or I will put on some loud music and just act like an idiot for 3 or 4 minutes and jump around or shadow box or something. But that tactile response is really the key.
It absolutely is. So I'm not sure how your tactile response would work with this, what my exercise is here, because what it is to just sit in with this is a moment of suffering, or this is a moment of hopelessness. So that's what I encourage people to do, is to hold that comforting position, whichever one works for you. And just keep playing with it until you find the one that does feel most comforting. But you can say this out loud or in your mind, that this is a moment of, and you fill in the blank. So this is a moment of suffering. This is a moment of feeling hopelessness. This is a moment of fear. That's all you're saying. This is a moment of this. And then you say words to the effect that life is made up of moments of suffering or pain or strife. So now you're kind of, you're creating the space for that emotion to be felt, in essence, but you're comforting yourself. So you're not stuck. This is to help you get unstuck. And then you say, what can I do to help me feel more loving, or more love, or help me feel kindness, or even just help me move to the next better feeling or the next emotion. Because all these emotions exist on a scale where you have like joy and ecstasy at the top, and hopelessness and helplessness at the bottom, and then they're all sort of ranked in between. So we might be able to move up from hopelessness to, I don't know, boredom. Actually, that's a funny story. I had a client that did that. I'd been working with her for quite a while. She was in a very stuck position, And one day she came into my office and I said, "How are you?" She said she was bored. And I was so excited. I'd explain to her after.
Well, everything is relative, especially with what you're talking about here. If we are living in anger, if we are living in rage, and we're feeling that all the time, and then all of a sudden we're feeling meh.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Well, the feeling of rage and anger may be a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being total elation and nirvana. 1 may be that rage. So if you're feeling meh, you just moved up to 2 or 3. That's a reason to celebrate.
But it's also because if you can move, then you can move more.
Absolutely. And I think it's important with what we're talking about here, with what you just shared with us, and that truth nugget again on how to use that process, your system, is we don't have to do a broad jump, right? Small steps. It's climbing a ladder, and you're never going to start at the top of a ladder. Right. You have to take one rung at a time, and slowly you will get to the top of the ladder. So many of us, and again, this goes back to living by the expectations of others, need to be successful overnight. Well, there is no thing as an overnight success. You really, truly look at an overnight success, unless they play on the lottery, there are a ton of failures in overnight success.
And a lot of time invested in figuring out what's the right fit for them.
Absolutely. I can share my own story here where, in 2014, I was downsized from a job I had working as a customer service agent for a major telecom. And I decided I had enough of playing with the man and living in the cubicle environment. I was going to do my own things. And I was certain I was going to rock the world. Well, here we are just about in 2018, and it has only been in the last year that I found something that would not only sing to my heart and my soul that I was good at, but would also be monetized in a way to allow me to put a roof over my head and food on my table and a little extra in the bank, which is always good. It took those 4 years of constantly going from identity to identity, as a good friend of mine once said, to put on different costumes and try them on to see not only what was comfortable, but what was successful for me. And there's nothing wrong with that. So many people believe that they've got to make a decision and they've got to stick with that decision and make it work.
I love that you just said that, because this is actually quite a similar analogy that I say to people, is that, like you're just saying about one step up that ladder, but sometimes I say to people that it's almost like going to your favorite boutique, and each of these decisions, each of these roles that you take on, you might try coaching, or you might try mindfulness meditations, or whatever it is. You're saying that you tried lots of different types of businesses and options. And so me too. I mean, the who I've become has been a huge, diverse skill building. But this idea is of going into the boutique and trying on different pieces. And then it's then almost like standing in front of a mirror and saying, how do I look in this? How do I look in this role? How do I feel about myself? And that one is a big piece that I don't know that very many people stop and ask. How do I feel about myself in this decision, with this role, when I think about that thing or creating that? Because if we are really doing it based upon what we think other people want us to be or do, then we're not going to feel that great about ourselves necessarily. So this is a key piece of unearthing what's your true passion, what's your calling, what gives you meaning.
Now, this brings us to my favorite part of every podcast episode I have ever recorded. And it ties into something that you wrote in the information package that you sent me before our interview today. And you said in there, you say, we are multidimensional beings, and integrating all aspects of who we are in all roles we play in life is an important piece to becoming unstuck. So if there is anyone out there who is stuck, who is either stuck in a job or stuck in a situation that they don't like, what practical advice would you give them to try on different roles? What practical advice could you give them to become unstuck?
I love this question too. So, one of the things that I would really encourage people to do is to watch the conversation they're having in their head. So let's say they're in a job that they really don't like, and they're having a conversation like this job sucks, I hate it, my boss is always angry at me, I don't like doing this job, I don't like being stuck in the cubby. So it's all of that conversation that's actually creating more of your experience, as opposed to allow yourself a wee bit of dream time each day.
I
So
like that.
every day, I would just sit down with a wee journal. What would you like? Just think you've got a magic wand. There is no limitations, no money problems, no relationship problems. What do you want? Where would you like to be? And start growing that. Now, I'm not really talking about doing a vision board per se, because I can get into a whole other story about that. But to start feeling what would you love? What would light you up? And even, this is something that I had somebody do actually not so long ago, was start paying attention to the things that you actually like in that job or in that relationship or in that scenario, because there's still a story there somehow of things that you could start saying, oh, actually, I like this piece. I like dealing with that kind of client, or I like it when my boss asks me to do this type of work. And then you can put your focus more onto the things you like. But then the other part too is almost like to bless where you are, because it's the stepping stone to get to where you're going.
It all comes back down to gratitude and mindfulness. They are truly the keys. And of course, what you're talking about, I call self-talk. And that is another part of mindfulness. But what you said brings up a very interesting thing. You said to think about and write down the things that you like about your job or your situation, even if it's a negative one. So many times I find people will sit there and you'll go, well, what do you like about blank? And then for the next 10 minutes, they'll tell you what they don't like.
I know, we're experts at that.
Right? We have to start to reframe our thought processes to think about what we like. Because when we think about what we like, even if it's in a bad situation, what we're doing through our self-talk is programming our brain to look for more things to like, look for more things to be positive for. And our brains will start finding opportunities for us instead of obstacles. And again, that goes right back to being mindful and owning your thought process and owning your life.
Absolutely. The other part here, though, too, Gary, is that I believe that in order to get clear on what we do want, we do have to get through all the stuff we don't want.
Oh, yes.
But then the process that I would invite people to do is that understand that if I say, I don't like to be cold, finish the sentence, because that's only the first part of the sentence. If I say, I don't like to be cold, I love to be warm. If I don't like to work 20 hours a day, I love to work X amount of hours. So it's like you're using it as a way to frame it up. Don't get so stuck on all the things that I don't want. I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be doing that. But sometimes when people have got so conditioned to that, what I encourage people to do is to take a pad of paper, draw a line down the middle of it. On the left-hand side.
I was just about to bring that up.
Write it all down. Just one after the other. Write it all down. And then on the right side, after you've finished and you feel like you've cleared it all, you've expressed all the things you don't want, you don't like, then you go back through the light and take every line item and like I said, finish the sentence. If I don't like this, that means I like that.
Yep. And
being a wee bit of a detective.
I would also add a third column, if I could, into that. After you write down, I don't like this, I like that, use the third column to express your why.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
because I feel that understanding why will give us the automatic drive to achieve what we're looking for.
A wee caveat on that, though, is to make sure that you're doing a mindful why, not
Oh, of
an
course. Yes.
accusatory why, which people
Yes.
tend to do a fair bit.
Hmm. It's the exercise I run through with my clients where I ask them, why? Well, I want $1 million. Why? Well, everybody wants $1 million. No,
Exactly.
you go a little deeper, folks. Put some thought into your why. It's important to know what you don't want, what you do want, and why you want to have the things you want, why you want to have that business,
Mhm.
why you want to live gratefully, why you want to have X amount of dollars. And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting money. There's
No.
nothing wrong with wanting to be prosperous or defining yourself, as you said earlier, I am prosperity.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Uh, So those three columns again, and Moira, you've been dropping truth nuggets all show, and I want to thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Write down what you don't want, write down what you do want, and then write down why you want it. I think that's an excellent, excellent exercise. And now, Moira, I do want to thank you for being with us today. And I want to give you the opportunity. There are plenty of people who are listening to you right now who have benefited from you sharing your stories and dropping your truth nuggets and giving us this practical advice that you've been giving. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do and how people can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So, as we've said, I'm a mindfulness coach and a energy healer. I also do tarot card readings, and I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. So people can find me. I have information about my services and how to contact me on my website, which is wellnesswithmoira.com. And I can also be found on Facebook. I have a page on Facebook, Wellness with Moira, right there too. And I have other social media platforms, but generally it's my website and Facebook are the easiest ways to get a hold of me and get a sense of different things that I offer.
Okay. And folks, that website again was www.wellnesswithmoira.com. You could also reach her through Facebook. And if you're listening to this podcast on your commute, in the car, maybe you're running errands, and you don't have a pen and paper to write this information down, all of it will be available on the website at www.passionatetalk.com. If you go there, click on the show page, you will find timestamp show notes on the highlights of our conversation, plus all the information on how to get in touch with Moira. All the links will be there as well. Now, Moira, is there one thing you want to leave our listeners with? One final piece of advice, one word of wisdom, or maybe just a joke? Anything.
What? Just a joke. That's a great one. Because the other part about getting unstuck is to not take everything so seriously. Maybe start to laugh at this human condition that we create. It's supposed to be fun.
Absolutely. The late, great Jim Morrison, no one gets out of here
That's
alive.
right. Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
What I think it was Michael Landon who said that if each one of us were born with the knowledge of the day we would die, how differently would we live our
It's
lives?
very true. It's very true. But the other thing too is that my own belief is that we all, as souls, we all have our end date. So just let go. If it's not your time today, have fun, have a blast, do your best. Absolutely do your best.
Absolutely. It all goes back to being mindful, not judging yourself.
Yeah, that's big.
That doesn't mean ignoring what's going on in your life, but acknowledge it without judgment. It's sort of the difference between being in the first car of a roller coaster as it goes up that hill and then takes that big first drop down before it hits that big bank of a right turn.
Yep.
And watching that roller coaster from a park bench that's maybe 20 or 20 feet away while you're safely on the ground.
Yes.
Okay? You want to experience your life and acknowledge what's happening from the park bench. You don't want to judge it from the front car of that roller coaster.
But that's the other point there, Gary, that I would say is that your own inner core self is asking for and deserves your own unconditional love and acceptance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know for me, that was a tough one for me to get over for many, many years. And I still struggle with it today. Mm-hmm. That unconditional love and acceptance of all parts of you, including the quote unquote bad parts.
Yeah, the pieces that we don't like.
Again, 99% of the time, the pieces we don't like are simply there and defined as, quote, things we don't like because other people have told us not to like them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Moira, I want to thank you again for joining me here today. This has been a blast. I have enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise.
You are welcome back. You are welcome back at any time you want to come back. We can talk more about mindfulness. We could talk hypnosis. We can talk tarot, whatever you want.
I love to.
And we will talk with you later. Thank you very much. Wow. Moira kept dropping truth nuggets all during this conversation. I love that she said that I am statements are the most powerful statements that there are, and also gave us that wonderful little nugget of not owning the negative emotions that we have. To use the phrase, I am experiencing frustration, I am experiencing anger, I am experiencing depression, instead of saying, I am frustrated, I am depressed, I am angry. Do not own the negative emotions, folks. Don't make it your identity. Simply honor the emotion by acknowledging that you are experiencing it. I love that she asked us the question, how do I feel about myself? Especially when we're trying on those costumes, when we are, as she said, walking into that boutique and trying on different clothes and looking into the mirror and saying, how does this make me feel? Always ask yourself, how does this make me feel when making those decisions that will impact your life? And finally, allow yourself to dream. The advice she gave about giving yourself dream time during the day to alleviate the stress and think about what's possible in your life and where you want to go. And also the advice of finishing the sentence. It's not enough to say that you don't want something. Finish the sentence and say what you do want. Don't tell yourself what you don't like. Finish the sentence and say what you do like. And then, also important, add that third column and say why you like it, why that thing is important to you. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episodes of Passionate Talk. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation I had with Moira. But for right now, until next week, follow your dreams and passions and manifest the life that you choose.